my wife now, she's been with me since like before this album. We were going through a breakup during the studio time.
Oh,
so it's all like from Not Our Tomorrow on is like hidden in there is like just breakup heartbreak songs that were scattered because that's like all I could think about. I'm like doing the biggest thing in my life and my girlfriend's not with me and I'm like in senior year of high school. I'm like, what's happening? This is awesome. What's happening? So it was like I was torn in half.
All right, guys, let's welcome Levi Benton of Miss May I to Audio to Autopsy here at KNOTFEST.com. And Levi, man, how you doing?
Good, man. Good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So crazy that these albums at this point are doing 15-year anniversaries and stuff, man. It's crazy how quick time is going.
Yeah, it's nuts. Now we have fans that are raised on our albums because they can, you can almost drive one more year. So
right, there you go. So yeah, we're gonna do Audio Autopsy this time on Apologies Are for the Weak. Came out June 23rd, 2009.
It's wild.
So I was thinking some fun facts about that date. So June 23rd, 2009, your debut album comes out. June 24th, 2009, I turned 30. June 25th, 2009, Michael Jackson died. So
yes,
in like a 3-day span. That's some history right there, man.
Yeah, I remember we will always remember we were in Jacksonville, Florida when Michael Jackson died. We were on tour with Impending Doom. So I will never forget like waking up in the van and just because Jacksonville, that's like how we can remember it. But I remember waking up and we're all like, did you see on the internet? He's dead. It's crazy.
So if he didn't have the chance, he only had like 2 days to listen to this album.
That's true.
Let's kind of go back to that time. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, you guys were so young when you guys got signed, wrote this album. Kind of talk about how a band from Ohio, from the middle of Ohio, gets any recognition and gets signed, still in high school. Yeah,
so we have a lot to give thanks to the Devil Wears Prada. So they really put us on the map. We're both from Dayton, Ohio, and we were doing really good locally. We never really sent out press kits or thought about getting signed. Obviously it's a dream, but we just thought that was like a pipe dream. Right. So we were a senior at school, so we're like, oh, we're going to be graduating soon. We just played in the weekends, and Prada got wind that we were doing really well because we were like closing the local shows and playing packing out venues. Then Prada came to see us, and everyone's like, did you hear they're in the building? Like, the guys are here, that's crazy. And they were huge at the time. This was MySpace era, and yeah, we played this one show in Springfield, and I remember I was in the back of an SUV with the drum set, like contorted with the drum set, holding it, and I got a text from the guitar player. He's like, hey, this is Chris. I've been thinking about getting into management. I'd love to talk to you guys. And I remember telling the guys, and we're all like, you have to talk to him tomorrow. And the rest is really history. We talked to Chris. He sort of like introduced the world to us. Like they posted a bulletin about us, which obviously is life-changing, and told like sort of their team became our team because he's like, you should listen to these guys. And yeah, traction picked up like right away. And then before the album was out, we had this cover Swing before covers were like a thing, and that's where our plays really skyrocketed. Like Prada helped us, but we released that song because they had Still Fly, I think, was coming out, which was like a legit cover.
Right.
Ours was like a DIY cover with no rights. We were just putting it out there, and yeah, our plays went from 2,000 a day to like 250,000 a day, and we're like, okay, this is great. Everyone at school thought I broke it. I specifically remember being in science class and someone's like, what'd you do to your MySpace? I'm like, dude, I didn't do anything. I was like, our messages are blowing up. Like, this is real. And and overnight it was just crazy. And then we had to figure out how to graduate. We'll do the album during senior year, graduate so the album was ready. Right. When it's funny you said June 23rd because I sort of forgot the date, but it was all timed to be like graduation was like early summer, and then it came out right then. So it was all around our school year, sort of.
That's awesome, man. So how many of the members of the band, like that original contract is signed by, Levi Benton and then the mom, or, were the co-signed from the adult?
Yeah, all of us had co-signers. So at the time, Josh Gillespie was our guitar player, or was our bass player singer before Ryan Neff came back to the band.
Yeah.
So yeah, his parents signed. We actually met at a B-Dubs. So it was like Buffalo Wild Wings with this record label from Portland. And Rise at the time was just two guys in like a 10 foot by 10 foot office. Yeah. Like they had no assistants, nothing. They were tiny. So we had to be like Mom, Dad, it's the internet. Like, trust these guys from Portland. They know what they're doing. Like, they do all these bands. Everything was like legit, but not really legit yet. And it was the fork of college or music. So we had to be like, trust us. Like, if it doesn't work out, we'll go to school. We promise. And thankfully it worked out. So
yeah, I definitely played with a few guys over the years that weren't going to give it until they were like 24, because that would be like the amount of time that they would be in college, you know. So they're like, they could justify it up to that point, and then after that it was kind of over.
It's funny you said that. We had that same thing. Yeah, 24, 25, we all were like, do we want to keep doing this? Because we could go back and change everything. It'd be like, go to normal. And then I think that year was 2012 was like our best year ever. So it was like that, when that decision came, we're like, no fucking way, are you crazy? We're on fire right now. Yeah.
It is great. I mean, if I'm reading everything right, I mean, you guys formed roughly 2007, 2008, and then by the time, 2009 rolls around, you're putting out, Apologies for the Week. So how quickly did these songs come together? I mean, were all of the songs on this album kind of written before you guys got signed, or any of them kind of carry over into the album?
Yeah. So we did have a demo called Lullaby for a Beast that we would like, I freaking killed my mom's computer and burned like 500 CDs. And then we just had like a print off sheet. And so it's actually funny because the track listing, because we didn't know what we were doing at the time, is the order of us just recording the songs. So by the time it gets to like Not Our Tomorrow, we ran out of songs and we wrote the rest in the studio.
Oh, nice.
So the first I think 4 or 5 songs were from our demo, and we like cleaned them up with a producer because we didn't know what we were doing. And yeah, then we're like, okay, we're out of songs. We got to have the album in 30 days. And then we started writing songs in the studio, and the rest of the album is all written in the studio. But yeah, Architect, A Dance with Era Cura, just Arms of Messiah, like all those were just songs that, there are some songs that didn't make it from our demo to there, and they're like living on YouTube somewhere.
Are you ashamed of them, or you look?
No, okay. No, they just, I don't know why they didn't make it. I do sort of a little bit, but so that's sort of how it came. It's just funny now because now there's such a science in track listing. But at the time, we were just like, print it. This is it. This works.
Alphabetical order? I don't know.
Exactly, yeah.
So you did this with Joey Sturgis, man. How did you guys find him? Where did he come from?
So Joey, actually, I don't know how many people know this, but when we were like 14, like our first recordings ever, Joey was doing the first demos of Prada. And we knew Prada because they were local.
Yeah.
And they were just huge local. This is before they were signed. And Joey originally did this out. He didn't have a garage, so he rented a garage from someone in Connorsville and built a studio in their garage. So it was someone else's house. And we went to that studio, and Jared, our drummer's grandma, drove us in like an RV, and we made a big day out of it. And so we met Joey when I was 14 doing our first demos that I don't think anyone really has. Those were on the ones we were giving out. Those were like really bad. The first time we were recording, I literally remember I went to go do a low, and like all we knew prior to this, because we didn't play local shows, we're just like, oh, we got to record songs. Let's go to this guy. We all saved up our money, and I remember going to do a low, and granted, before this, it's just practice, so no one's heard us. And I do it, and Joey's like, no, you're not going to do that. And I was like, okay. So like, it didn't do any lows because I didn't know what I was doing. And just recorded some garbage, few songs. So we met him as kids, and then Joey at the time when our album came out was like the guy, and he was working with Rise like all the time. So Rise got us in there, and then we're like, hey, it's us. Remember us from a few years ago? And he's like, then we sort of knew what we were doing. And even then though, that album, like especially going back and retracking it, there was so many memories of like, I still didn't know what I was doing. Like there's some parts, like there's a few long screams that we would open up the doors, and he had this house, and he turned that garage into a studio, but it was connected to the house. And there were like some long screams that we would like open all the doors in the house, and I would like run. I'd like get my breath, I'd run, and I'd throw everything I had into it to get this long scream. And we're like, that's good enough. And like, we just didn't know how to get this long scream. We're like, this would sound good here. And I'm like, we'll just try. And I would be like spitting blood or like just trying everything I could just to get the audio. Didn't care how we got it. But yeah, and then went to Joey, and we went to him a couple times after that. He's the man. Now he's a family friend. So
nice. You guys went back and obviously have redone this album.
Yeah.
For you, kind of going back and reading old lyrics and kind of the song structures and all that stuff that, when you're 17, it's one thing, but when you're, in your 30s, it's like, oh, like, and you've done 15 straight years of being a professional musician at this time.
Yeah.
So do you look back fondly of like kind of the innocence of this album, or do you look back kind of like, we should maybe try something else, try something new on the re-record?
Yeah, it's funny you say the innocence. That's why I tell everybody it was such an innocent time when we did it. And that's like, to me, the charm of it. Because like when you said structure too, it's funny because there is not, until Joey started helping us write songs from like when our demo was up, it was like there was no structure. But that's like sort of the charm in it, is like we didn't know what a chorus was or a verse. We just knew cool riff A, cool riff B, cool riff C, and we just smashed it together.
Right.
And it all led up to a breakdown or two, and like that was just the song. And yeah, so it is cool looking back at those songs, because it's when I see the demo songs get into the real album, we sort of like through that album we sort of learned how to write songs. So the first songs are super, I couldn't even tell you, like I remember the feelings I was having, but the main point was to write the most obscure craziness. Like, because at the time we were listening to As Blood Runs Black, Dahlia, At the Throne of Judgment, from the Shallows, like all these just sick death metal bands that like I didn't even know what their songs were about. I just knew it sounded I'm like, he's talking about a dragon and it's on fire. I'm like, this is fucking sick. Right. So we would just write obscure things that would be like the most evil we could do. And then we started writing songs in there. My wife now, she's been with me since like before this album. We were going through a breakup during the studio time.
Oh,
so it's all like from Not All Tomorrow on is like hidden in there is like just breakup heartbreak songs that were scattered, because that's like all I could think about. I'm like doing the biggest thing in my life and my girlfriend's not with me, and I'm like in senior year of high school. I'm like, what's happening? This is awesome. What's happening? So it was like I was torn in half a little bit.
But it does kind of make sense now that you're saying that Forgive and Forget is the last track on the album, and it's kind of the first single in the album, because you're like talking about how you get all the way to the end of it, and then you're like, oh, this is a chorus, and this is a that, and this is,
we figured out.
You figured out how to write it. Because I was looking at it, and I watched the videos and stuff for this album, and I was like, why is the single the last track on the album? But now it makes sense.
Yeah.
So first track is a Dance with Era Cura.
Yeah, so that song originally was called Porcelain Wings on our demo, and actually had Chris Roeder from Like Moths to Flames. He was on a Graceful and Morosa at the time, so he was like our rock star feature. The original one has him on it, the demo. But yeah, so we renamed it just for, I think, branding purposes. But that was a demo song for sure. That was just, it took off, and we had to have it come over. And when I was talking about stuff not really just being the most obscure song, like Era Cura is like the wife of Lucifer, like the god of the underworld, and it's just about dancing with her and like hanging out with her, and was just an obscure song. So it was just like as cool and evil as we could make it. So that's what it's about.
Yeah, I came up with she's the Roman goddess, and she made the first human out of clay.
Oh, okay.
It said that she walked through a water and grabbed mud and formed the first human, is what Wikipedia tells me about.
Okay.
So, and it's funny you're talking about lyrics and things like that, because if you just listen to the music and just listen to your voice and everything else, you're like, this is the most sick demonic shit you've ever heard. And I was like, when you dive into it, I'm like, these are sort of really sweet lyrics. So I've got sweet lyrics. I was reading a little bit about the Are You, Aren't You Christian band or whatnot. And you're saying, you're like, well, we're not a Christian band, but I've got Christian values. So I try to, you do seem to be a very positive person. So
yeah.
It kind of comes through in your lyrics, even though you sound like you're sacrificing something to Lucifer's wife, but yet you dive into these lyrics and you're like, nice, good guy in there. There's a good guy coming through.
I think it's been a message we've always wanted to keep, is like a positive resolution in all our songs. So,
do you remember the what the decision was to kind of do the fade in at the beginning, because it's kind of lo-fi into obviously a good sounding song? Do you remember the kind of the production there?
I definitely will say all the production, because we were just noobs and didn't even know what production meant. There's definitely us and Joey just experimenting. Like, especially at that time, Joey was still like a young producer, and it was just busting out awesome albums. So like when it came to production, he was still experimenting. Like we didn't know what we could do. So like every song we just pushed the limits of like, okay, we sort of made every song have an Easter egg. So like we'd finish it and then we'd do the production after. So it'd be like, okay, here's the song. And we're like, Joey, like, because at that time, I remember it was either this or our second album, like Reaper just came out. Like it was super early still in like just recording software. So we would just like start opening up plugins and be like, well, what can we do? Like to make this sound crazy. So I remember that was definitely a Joey recommendation, and just, yeah, like, and it's the first song. So like, we have to have a cool intro. Because I think in our minds, we're like, what are we going to walk out to? Like when we play this song. So,
that's how you got to fake it. You got to think of the opening track on to just.
Yeah. Now we got to walk out to it on the 15-year anniversary. So full circle.
We'll kind of touch on the re-record too. Obviously this one's featuring Silent Planet on the re-record. Talk about getting with those guys or getting with vocalists there.
Yeah, so that's a cool one because we've never toured with Silent Planet. I love the band. I love Garrett. I've met him in festivals. But so Ryan, since he's in As I Dying, he was on tour or maybe did a festival in Europe with Silent Planet. They were doing Empiricon Fest, I think. And we were talking about this re-recording. And the label thought we were psychos because I was like, hey, it's done. Like, cool. I'm like, also, before it's done, I'm like, I'm going to ask 10 guest vocalists. And they're like, that's going to be impossible. And I was like, give me a couple days. I just text all these people. And then during those couple days, Ryan must have been talking about it on tour, and Garrett heard about it. So we don't know Garrett. We've never really, like I said, met him. We're not like have numbers or anything. And he was like, hey, if you do that, I'd love to be a part of it. And he's like, I want this song. So he was like our first person to be like, maybe we can get 10 guest vocalists. So, yeah, so he was actually the first one to lock it in, which is funny. It's the first track, but he was like, I love that song growing up. And it sort of opened up the pathway of like what we were going to do. So all the guest vocalists have to do with like, they were either inspired by the album, they were on our first tours, or they're friends we've met along the way. Right. So everyone has like a special meaning. Yeah, he was just inspired by that song growing up as a kid. He was like, I'd love to be on it. And yeah, he's our proof of concept. So thank you, Garrett, for making us make it happen.
All right, man. Next up is Architect.
Yeah, so Architect was a single, I take that back. It was like the second soft single of the album, but it was something that came from our initial demos. There's actually a really cool live video, if somebody looks up on YouTube, of us.
Got it written down?
Yeah, of us in high school playing that. And I remember that because we hired a team to film it. And this was like when we were getting buzzed. Oh, no. Rise, we just signed the deal, and we were just in high school still, so nothing really changed, but they loved our demo, so they gave us a little bit of a budget to do a live video, and YouTube was like not monetized. It was just like, hey, here's a platform to share a video. Should have been there. I wish it was monetizing, but and then I specifically remember it was algebra. Mr. Nyrode was our teacher. He was awesome. He still has a Miss Mann poster to this day in his classroom. But I remember filming that, and then he was like, oh, I heard you guys play a show this weekend, and he pulled it up on the projector, and that was the video that's on YouTube. We showed it to the class, and they're like, that's what you guys do on the weekends? I'm like, it's pretty cool, guys. Yeah.
You should be there.
Yeah, and all the lights were like, we built those out of just like 2x4s.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, and like pressure sensitive. We had the buttons and the plexiglass, all fire hazards, and like we had a friend with like the power switch side to stage, so... yeah, I just remember building all that stuff, but that's what that video is like. And my hair's short. I got a nice little short hair on that.
Yeah. I love the a lot of the choreographed like Crabcore stuff.
Oh yeah, that was pre-Crabcore.
Well,
we were the OGs.
Yeah. And, whatever we're gonna call it on that one, but it's just like, I love some of all these things that are such time capsules.
Yeah.
And I actually even went to like see some of these songs like played recently. Like I was like, I wonder if they still do it. And it's funny, a couple of the guys, you can kind of see that they want to do it. Like, yeah, they'll kind of get into like I'm just gonna kind of rock like this. You know, they're still like, I mean, there's still songs that I would play that I would still want to do what I did 20 years ago on stage. So you're like, still your muscle memory goes right to that.
We did it so many times on tour, and you're like, oh no,
this is what I do with this part. You know, I pogo right here. But yeah, I love the just that all that kind of air. Was there a meeting? Did you guys go, all right, on this one part, we all got to do the same. I got to do this move. You know?
Yeah. So I know it gets Crabcore because that Attack video, which also Ohio Boys, we all played together. But all of us really took it from the This Is Exile Whitechapel video. Nice. So Whitechapel always did stuff in sync, and we were just looked up to them, and they were just badass at the time. So we were just thinking we were being cool like Whitechapel. Mm-hmm. And then fast forward years later, CNN picks up Crabcore and talks about Attack, and now it's coined that. But we were all just like, oh, they're in sync. And then like everyone was like, so Ask Alexandria, like all our friends were just like, oh, choreographed, because it just made you look bigger than life. Like you're playing these rinky-dink sticky bars, but like your synchronized theatrical stuff, and you're like, oh, they actually got their shit together. They know what they're doing. So that's what we thought. And then Crabcore comes along and coins it.
I mean, at the time, and you think everything's, this is what it's going to be like forever. And then now you look back and you're like, oh, the swoopy hair, the skinny jeans, and the dress shirts, and all that stuff, man. It's just, it's like, it makes it, and I've said it, multiple times on the show over the years, is like, it's such an innocent time.
Yeah.
And I was around a lot of people that were starting bands and like getting out there doing all this stuff. So it's like, to me, it's like a precious time, because I'm like, oh, you guys are out there doing it, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's you look back now and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it is very of the time, but it still looks cool. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
This one, lyrically.
Yeah. So a lot of it is, it's sort of this one, there is a cool topic with hidden in under the spookiness that we're trying to do. But, it was sort of my struggle with because all my bands were like either Christian bands or not Christian bands at the time. And we sort of had to make that decision. Not that we were a Christian band or some of the guys were Christians, but I'm like, I had my family's like, oh, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, is that evil? And I'm like trying to just make a decision. So this is sort of like a struggle with religion song. That's why the ending breakdown sort of has the lyrics it does have. And it talks about a theater, and the architect's supposed to be like a Jesus or a God, and it's that's sort of the question throughout the song. It's sort of my just because like I said, I didn't want to lean either way, but it was something I was struggling with at the time, because everyone asked us, because at the time Christian metalcore was the cool thing. Even if you weren't a Christian band, you had to be a Christian band to get on some of the shows.
Yeah.
So it was all the cool venues were Christian venues, and you couldn't cuss at them. So you're like, we're a Christian band. And they're like, don't cuss tonight. You're like, tonight we were a Christian band. Tomorrow we're going to play a VFW hall.
Right. So the say your fucking prayers line probably doesn't go over well at that place.
Yeah.
Well, that was the time too where churches, they were playing church basements, and there was all this built-in crowd amongst the church scene, and it was weird. I've interviewed bands over the years that it was hard for them to transfer from the church venues to secular venues, because there was a church budget, and they could be paid pretty well.
They funded everything.
And they try to go and actually turn into actual clubs and things like that. And you're like, oh shit, well, we're not getting paid anything in these places. I guess we'll go back to the church basements and whatnot.
Yeah. Our hometown venue, the show we played our first show at and grew up playing, was a Christian venue, the Attic in Dayton, Ohio. And it was a no cursing venue, but we played there with Job for a Cowboy, we played there with Born with Cyrus, with the Red Chord, all these crazy guys would come through there, and they couldn't cuss when they came through, but it's they would get paid well. It was a nice venue, and it was just it was at that time. It was almost like youth group 2.0. The church was oh, they're too old for youth group, we could just continue it with venues.
Right. And
metalcore was blowing up on the internet, and yeah.
This one you got Brian from Currents on here.
Yes. Yeah, so Brian, Currents are our little brothers. We took them on their first U.S. tour. Took them on their first European tour. Now they're massive. They're taking us out to Europe now.
Nice.
So I love them. And this was sort of the same thing with Garrett. Brian, I knew they grew up listening to us just because their age, and they talked about it a lot when we toured with them. And when I started, so Garrett was the first, and when I started sending out the rest I asked people first, and they're like, oh, of course. And I gave him a list, and yeah, Brian was the second person. It's funny, not to say it's all going to be in order, but Brian was the second person, and this was the song he picked. He was like, I loved this song growing up. I would love to be a part of it. He sent me a lot of really sweet texts since it's come out of just how happy he is to be a part of it, and he crushed it, and I think he's an amazing vocalist, and now their band's just, yeah, I love Currents.
You couldn't get anyone from Architects to do this song?
I've heard that many times, yes. And we never toured with them either. If I knew those guys, I would definitely have asked Sam, but
right.
Yeah.
Next up is Not Our Tomorrow.
Yes, so okay, I guess it was only 3 songs in. So now we started writing in the studio. Yeah, so I remember, so this is, you start hearing the breakup. There's a lot of I'm sorry songs, because the breakup, long story short, was just me being the dumb band guy. That's why I broke up for a second. And this was dumb band guy, high school, nothing crazy. There's way worse dumb band guys now. But yeah, Not Our Tomorrow was cool, because so one of our lifelong friends, his name's Hook. Shout out to Hook. He's our stage tech now. He's been with us since like we were 15. He's like the hidden member behind the scenes. And he was in town, or he came to the studio when we were doing this, and I remember everyone was asleep, and it was like 3 a.m, and Joey went to bed saying like, this needs to be done tomorrow. And so he like, that was our homework, and everyone went to sleep, and me and Hook are like, or I was in there writing, Hook's like, let me help you. And I remember we wrote the chorus hook while we were like together in there, and we're like, Joey's gonna freak the fuck out. We're like, we wrote the chorus, this is awesome. And like we were writing it down, and so I vividly remember that night, because we were just had the song on loop, and we're just like pacing, we're like, oh, that's not it. No, we're like, it was our first time that we were pressured to write a song that day.
Yeah.
So it's like Joey wrote the instruments with the guys. It was structured. There's a chorus. It's the first time it comes back, and there's like a pre-chorus. We're like, this is a real fucking song. Like, well, how do we do this? Like, parts repeat. Super foreign to Miss May I. And that was a really cool, very good memory, because that was, like I said, our first song we ever wrote in the studio. Now we do that all the time. So we come in with like a riff bank, and we finish them in studio, because the collaborativeness is, there's just something that comes out that doesn't, like the guys actually, we tell each other not to finish the songs. We're like, don't finish it, because we have to finish it in studio, because it's going to change. So now we're like, we write 30% of songs and put together. So
yeah, I've got this has a nice slow down chug in it.
Yes, yeah.
Brandon from Bleeding Through on this one?
Yes, Brandon. Oh, he's the OG. He's like the first time I saw or got to meet like star power. Like he's a real rock star and just the great dude. So he took us out on our first tour was with Impending Doom and KNOTFEST, but it ended in the West Coast, and then there was a 10-year anniversary, which is nuts to think about, of Bleeding Through. That was only 10 days long, and we jumped on it to get home. Right. So we did 2 tours back to back, and that's how we got home. And getting home was only to Texas, and we figured out the rest of the way. So it wasn't too close to home. But yeah, he was like just our big brother, and like at the time we were just like on fire, and we didn't know what was happening to us. And they just got off tour with Marilyn Manson. He had all these sports cars, they were just rock stars, and he was just telling us all this, he was just telling us like what to expect and what not to do, what to do. He was like our big brother. And when we reached out to people, he was our first guest vocalist on Monument, and we were always close with Brandon. And when I was reaching out to people, that's when we started saying like, we want people from the first tours. And yeah, I reached out to Brandon because he's just a legend. He's amazing, and no questions asked. He's like, whatever you need, I got you. And he actually recorded with Tim Lambesis and went down to Tim's house and tracked it for us. And yeah, Brandon's the man. I've helped him with his gym and his websites and stuff since. And yeah, he's just a family friend. Like even when me and my wife lived out in LA, we'd just hang out with him and Lindsay, his wife, and just do family stuff. Outside of being in metal bands, we would just talk about life stuff, and it was awesome.
Was he trying to get you all ripped at the gym?
He was. They had what was there? Psycho Saturdays was a free gym I would come. Because at the time, I was still a broke musician, so I could not afford CrossFit, and that was like a really bougie gym that he has. It's an amazing gym. It's still there. Yeah. So I'd go on the free Saturdays, and I would get my ass whooped. And he would just be jamming, and he would like, hey, I'm going to put you on today, amp you up. So it'd be like, Miss May I jamming. Did not help. Tires are still heavy. Like ropes are still too heavy. But yeah, he's just a good dude. And like even to this day, like we talked to him just about advice, because yeah, he's just done it all. Like Bleeding Through did everything, so it's just cool to go back. And it's cool now because they're coming back as like Hard as a Parent, and like now that's like the chapter we're coming into. So it's cool to talk to them and be like, they like took their break to do family stuff, and now they're coming back, and we're like, hey, that's what we're trying to do. We're like, oh, this will work, because like, and then they're doing the House of Blues, and like we were trying to do their holiday show this year, so like we're still really close with those guys. So, and then cool little thing about that tour, if you can look it up online, there's this really cool, I'm totally going to space on the artist, he's just a real famous tattoo artist, but he did the cover, and that cover is on the show Workaholics. It's in Blake's cubicle all the seasons. So all through the Workaholics show, its life, there's a Bleeding Through 10-year anniversary tour with like Motionless Hawaii, us, and KNOTFEST
nice. On
the thing, and it's just it's such a cool little coin for that tour. So
yeah, you and I believe Blake can talk hair.
Exactly. I met him once, and nice. Yeah, I did bring that up, and he did not care. He's just he's a superstar. So I get up, I'm like, dude, hair, and he's like, picture. I'm like, what's up? But it was awesome.
Arms of the Messiah.
Yes. So Arms of Messiah was another one. I think this was like little bits of it came from a pre-demo song. But that is like a super, super shreddy song. It's just very fast. And I think that's what the intent for that was, just like a show off song. And yeah, this one sort of goes into, oh no, I do remember. So it is, all of it has like the coins of like how obscure can we be, but hidden in that, the meaning of this one is really, it's sort of like a father with his son, which obviously we have Hey Mister and other like father songs. That's just a reoccurring topic for Miss May I, and something I struggle with, and that's what Arms of Messiah is about. And yeah, it's just and it sort of has some underlying like religious things in there as well, because like I said, it's another thing we were struggling with, because that's when we did press back then, that was the first question every time for like 5 years. So
what's your favorite Bible verse?
Dude, exactly. Are you a Christian band? It's like, you have to explain this. And the other guys are like smoking a joint, like, shut the fuck up, Levi. I'm like, don't say that. And I'm like, what am I supposed to answer here? So I had to like, because I'm like, I have to answer for 5 guys. Mm-hmm. And every guy has a different opinion. So it's like, it's the hardest thing to answer. So definitely a struggle.
Yeah, it's actually funny you said something about fathers. This is the second time on the album that you've used the word father. And it kind of, that's not a word you, I guess, hear a lot in music. So I've actually, like, it kind of stuck out to me, kind of bringing it up. So yeah, Arms of the Messiah, then you got the fathers in there. So it's like, is it Christian? Is it actually about a father-son? There's actually a couple of father-son songs on the album, you can kind of tell. So yeah, it is one of those things too, where again, you listen to your voice, you listen to the song, no idea what you're saying, but you dive into the lyrics, you're like, oh, okay, it's a father-son song with, you know, I wrote down, I like the way you say annihilation.
Oh yeah.
It's like annihilation or something.
Yeah. I remember in the studio, that was like, yeah, that was a fun thing with me and Joey. So how Joey does vocals, it's like real intimate. So it's just like, you literally stand 2 feet from him. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I would say about Joey compared to other producers, is like those little pronunciations he like loves, and he has to make sure it's like right, or like an earworm. And that's why Joey is like, everything needs an earworm. And he would be like, it'd be like, annihilation. And he's like, he's like, what is like, he's like, I'm hearing sure. And I'm like, it is like that, sure. And we'd try it. So, yeah, a little nod to Joey on that.
So bringing in Scotty Lewis of KNOTFEST on this one?
Yeah, so he, that was our first tour, was Impending Doom and KNOTFEST. And I know I was saying Brandon taught us a lot, but like, Impending Doom and KNOTFEST headlining what was it, the Artery Foundation tour, that was who was managing us at the time. So that whole package on that tour was just bands within their management. Right. And we I don't know why we did not do this. This is just how the cards were laid, but we were like middle on our first bill. So we didn't open. We were third of 5 on our first tour ever, which was like very spoiled. And everyone knew we were spoiled. It was very hard going into that, because it's all these older guys. We were younger by like 10 years, everyone. So we're like these high school kids, just graduated, don't have any facial hair. We have no money. And we're like, we're third. We have no gear. We like, all these guys were veterans. And Scott and Brooke. Not that the opening bands were like mean to us or anything, but there was obviously just like some stigma there. And they like took us under our wings, like our big bros, Scott and Brooke. And it was cool because I didn't know how to play shows that long. Like there was I don't think there was a day off on that tour. And I was used to playing on the weekends. Yeah. And that was it. So like the first weekend, my voice is blown out, and like Scott and Brooke were already super close. So they would take me aside like, oh, are you doing warm-ups? I'm like, what the you guys warm up? I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like drinking Coca. At the time we had $5. So like at that time on that tour, it was $5 a day. Mm-hmm. And it was, the big ass styrofoam sweet teas from McDonald's and 2 McDoubles. Mm-hmm. That was like my meal for like 2 years. And that's all I had. I wasn't drinking water. We would like get water and we use it for showers, like the bottles of water we'd get. And yeah, they were like, no, you got, like, they just should tell me like, if you're going to do this, you got to do this, this, and this. I'm like, so they sort of showed me how, and they were amazing. Like both the bands were just insane. And that was like, yeah, they were just, both the bands were on fire. It was their crowds. We were like the young sceney kids with like the tight pants and colorful shirts. Everyone else wore black metal shirts, and we had like rocket blue slimy green shirts, and I'm like, this is cool, and they're like, what the fuck are you wearing? I'm like, I don't know what's happening.
Got a Hot Topic gift card.
Exactly, yeah. It was but yeah, they just taught us sort of the ways, and we looked up to them, so it was cool to but yeah, coming back to Scott, we've been friends all these years still. He does comics now. He sends me like roughs of his comics, like, check this out. And yeah, it's so cool to be friends with these guys outside of music, to like hang out with them for a whole day, and we don't even talk about our bands. We just talk about like life and what they're doing and how's the family, how's that. And then it's like, oh, I'll see you in Europe at this festival. Like, sick, I'll see you there. Yeah, it's cool. So he came back and wanted to do this, and yeah, he crushed it.
I will say we need to bring back the neon Hot Topic style t-shirts, man.
They're cool now on eBay. Yeah. They go for a lot. It's crazy.
Yeah, I found a Day to Remember Hot Topic shirt, and it's like a small the other day at the Goodwill for like $2.99, and I kind of looked it up real quick, and it was going for like $120 on.
Should have flipped it. Yeah, dude.
So if you need it, it's on my Depop.
Yes.
But yeah, it's crazy, like just how that was such a thing. Devil Wears Prada was a huge band of that, man. And, you guys had it too. It's just like everybody had their neon blue with their neon green letters, and
it was how many colors you could get printed. You like meet a printer, he's like, I can only do 10 colors. We're like, we need 15 colors, so it's not going to work.
I need 15 of your.
And it felt like a freaking varsity shirt. It was like so thick, the print, but you're like, that's awesome. Yeah.
Your voice, man. I was kind of going through this, and just even on this record, it's almost black metal-y. Like, it's real.
I appreciate that.
It's real, just like, it's not necessarily hardcore. It's not necessarily, it's very kind of like I said,
That's the best compliment you've ever given me, so I will take that. That was awesome.
Where did that come from? I mean, were you listening to that stuff at the time? Is it just kind of what naturally came out of you? Like, were you trying to be anybody?
Yeah, so who I was really trying to be, and now we're super homies, which is like surreal. He knows I'm a fanboy, even though we're homies, was Eddie from Also Paris. So Price of Existence came out, and I have never been a hardcore guy. Like, I appreciate hardcore, but like I love melody, and I love like range. And when I heard that Also Paris album, I was like, dude, this guy's doing highs, lows, pig squeals, mids, all in like one line.
Mm-hmm.
And I never heard anything like that. And I was like, that just made me like, we were already a band, like we were covering like Under Oath and Killswitch, like we were doing those songs, which is cool. But then I heard that, and I was like, and I remember just showing everybody, I'm like, dude, he's doing everything in 10 seconds. I'm like, that is so cool. So yeah, he was my biggest inspiration. And I'll never forget, we played with him at the Attic, and he was not that he was like being too cool, but I was like too nervous to talk to him. He was like headlining, and Also Paris was like at their prime. And he was like warming up, and he was like just saying, ow, ow. But like in his school, he was like, ow, ow. And I was like, I remember being backstage like, this is the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life, like hearing him warm up.
Yeah.
And yeah, now we're homies. I just saw Also Paris come back together at Incarceration. Lost my fucking mind, dude. It was so cool. But yeah, that album like is why I wanted to do the vocals I did. So it was cool going back on the retract, because now with our new lineup and just the reactions we're getting, and sort of how we're physically feeling and like emotionally feeling of the band right now, it's cool to reintroduce this, because it like reminded us sort of why we started this band, and it's making us look forward to like newer music, because we're like, oh, remember when we would like just throw everything at the wall and just like see what would happen? And it's like, it felt so good again, because some of doing these lines again, I do all 5 ranges in one line, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty fun. I forgot I used to do this.
Might have to do this on the next.
Yeah.
Josh Gillespie on this actually, comes through singing a lot on this one. But you guys don't actually attack it like a Killswitch would have done it, where you would scream the verse and he would sing a chorus. He just kind of adds like a bridge almost. Like,
yeah.
Almost like every once in a while he'll come in and kind of sing. What was kind of the thought process behind maybe not having him sing more to be more accessible and all that nonsense? Because I mean, he's a good singer, so it's kind of you would almost think he would kind of come along for some more choruses, but like I said, he's just kind of like sprinkled in there throughout the record.
Yeah, so that was us experimenting with like, we were, like I said, even though we didn't know structure, we were intelligent enough to know that we didn't want to be repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were, Miss May I does our songs like on we do a whiteboard, and it sort of looks like a football play. Like it's just all these blocks, and there's like arrows, and like, it might, obviously we're riffing and jamming, but there's a whole arrangement that's being done. And yeah, I remember putting him in these areas because we were just like, we needed to spice it up, because we're like, if it always leads to one big singing part in the core or in the breakdown, like we can't have 10 of those. So like this was like a song to like spice it up, and it's actually my favorite. It's probably my favorite singing part in the whole album, because it's like in a lower register, it's more chilled. Which like I love when Ryan got to retrack it. Josh's part was great too, but like yeah, just hearing Ryan do that was just it's cool to reintroduce that into our band, and that's like something we always like spicing it up. But not saying there's like politics of labels and stuff, but a lot of that risky stuff sort of gets shot down when it comes to production and like it being released. So that's why I feel like a lot of what's in Apologies for the Week sort of faded away, because we became like commercial and it's like a business, and like the people that are putting out are like, hey, it's gotta sort of follow this structure. Not like they're telling us do this, but you know what they mean when they send this email, and you're like, oh, we probably should stay within that. And you want to like get the XM play, you want to do this, so you want to have to play ball. There's a certain play. But now we're old and I don't give a shit. So we're just, I love this. So
yeah, it's definitely going into the second album probably had to be tough, because you toured a little bit now, you've got a little taste of it. So you're like, maybe we could get a little bit of radio play if we sing a little bit more. You see another band similar to you out there that's getting a little bit more love for this certain type stuff. So I mean, yeah, it's got to be tough.
You're like, they're playing House of Blues. We need to have more choruses.
Yeah, have more. I think we got to bring some more girls into the shit.
Yeah.
Next up, title track, Apologies Are for the Weak.
Yes. So funny thing, we did not have a title. We are even to this day, we do not have a title going into albums. We sort of finish the album, we go back and we sort of, I guess we call it like finding like the hardest line of the album. So we'll like finish the album, we're like, what's the hardest lyric that like sums up the album? And yeah, Apologies for the Weak was, I think when we wrote it, it was like something that made the board. We're like, oh, this might make it. So that's how the title came. It wasn't that it was like a full circle. It was just like that's as tough and scary as we could make the title be. But yeah, Apologies for the Weak. It's definitely, there's another current or recurring theme of like forget and forget. Just like I'm sorry. This is basically me being a high school kid. Like, please take me back to my girlfriend. Wrapped in a metal song. But yeah, that's what the song is really about, is just apologizing, but still sort of being like crossing the line of tough of like, but don't fuck with me. Like, yeah, sort of like both of those. And yeah, just saying obscure stuff, and it was just, as like I said, as scary as we could be. So when it comes to the relationship, obviously you're still together. Yeah.
So did this album work? Did she get the album and know some of these songs from her? She'd be like, Levi, I know what you're saying.
I do. She would never admit that, but I do think
if she gets back before the interview's over, I'm gonna have to
switch spots. Yeah, I think like subtly, and also at the same time, like we were recording these at nighttime, and then driving back to Ohio to go to school at 7 a.m. like every day. So then on the weekends, instead of me going to school, I would drive south to Kentucky and beg her to date me again. So it's like we were doing it, and I was like asking like this at the same time. So I think we got together before she ever heard the songs come. But I think I do remember there being a point of like, is this about? And I'm like, for sure. And it was like definitely some brownie points. Not that I was doing it for brownie points, right. But it's cool because like I never went to therapy or anything really growing up as a kid, and not that I had the best like I don't know, people have childhood traumas, and it's so funny now looking at it 15 years later, because there's so many like deep stuff that I didn't mean for it to come out, but I'm like, oh, I guess it really is about that now that I look at it. Because at the time you're just trying to be a kid, but like it's obviously coming from somewhere, you don't know where it's coming from. And now like that I'm adult and I'm self-aware, I'm like, oh wow, that's about this thing that was like happened as a kid. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking about this on the drive down and diving into your lyrics on this album. Also, I have to remember that this is a 17-year-old kid. You know what I'm saying? And you write a lot about the past. You write a lot about the relationships. You write a lot about like, where are we going to be in the future? Like you're writing all that stuff. I'm like, that's like exactly what my journal would have looked like at 17 also.
Yeah.
But then you look back at that stuff and you're like, all right, kid, just you'll be fine.
Oh, for sure. It's like the end, like the world is collapsing. Like it's just such a teenager dramatic thing at the same time.
Yeah. It's funny too, because kind of the phrase "apologies are for the weak" in 2024 is almost kind of like it's almost kind of goes against everything, because everybody's apologizing for everything, and everything you do now is like all of a sudden you say the wrong thing, and Twitter's coming at you, and then you're trying to get canceled, and next thing you know, you've got to apologize. But in a weird way, a lot of people that do apologize still get canceled and all that nonsense.
For sure.
So kind of still holds true that way. You don't apologize. Just move on.
And if you know me as a person, like people outside of the band and just know like personal Levi, like I am someone who apologizes too much. I say sorry, and I'm like, so like the band has also always been like a pedestal for me to like be someone I'm not. Mm-hmm. Like, not that I'm not, but like always wanted to be.
Yeah.
So it's cool. So it's like, there's a lot of the songs too always have that too. It's like, I would love to say this if I could. I'm going to say it in the song. And I don't intentionally do that, just sort of how it comes out.
I mean, when you're Levi from Miss May I, you're like, you got the mic and the metal and everything behind you, and you're just like crushing out there. And then you put the mic down, you get off stage, you're like, how was that show?
Exactly, yeah. I almost like black out. Like there's so many shows, like I can remember them, but it's like, I just don't, it's cool. It's like a switch flips, Yeah.
Like over the top. Anthony from After the Burial on the re-record.
Yes. So Anthony, this one has like a cool, I wouldn't say bouncy, because I'm going to say that later on another song, but like this has like a very, so when we got to this part of, another thing when we were doing guest vocals was, unless they requested a song and they're like, hey, you pick one for me, I would listen to the songs and I would try to find something similar to our friends. So I got everyone to approve that they wanted to do it. Right. And then I had to sort of place them on the album. So then when that happened, I started listening to the album and be like, what's a part that like really reminds me of that band? And we were After the Burial fans going into this album. So they had that like, our biggest thing as a band was that Pi song that they were playing. You know what I'm talking about? They play in Pi like 3-1-4, like the Pi decimals. Yeah. That's the breakdown.
Oh, nice.
It's insane. And they remembered it. That was like our favorite song by them. And so we loved them growing up. And there's just a chuggy part. I remember them being like an inspiration. And being able to ask Anthony to do it. We've toured with them so many times, and they're just like I said, they're beyond band friends. They're like family friends. They're all like, we just talk about wives and families, and they, dude, how are the kids? Oh, what are they doing? How old are they? Like, it's just so different now. And I just heard a part in this song when I was going through that would be perfect for Anthony, and he crushed it. He was actually right off a tour, and he was nervous to do it. And I was like, whatever you do will be sick. I'm like, you can't mess it up. So there's a couple guys like that. They were like getting off tour and they're like, dude, I'm wrecked. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, I don't care what it is. Like, I just want my homies on it. So
next up, Harlot's Breath.
Oh yes. So okay, so this one is sort of the opposite of the breakup song. It's like it's in the perspective of why we broke up, me just being a band guy, and that's sort of perspective this one's written, which is something I had to get out there too, because it's like something you really talk about with your significant other or your friends. But yeah, Harlot's Breath is just really just about those quote unquote sirens, or like stuff you deal with. I don't know, because at the time it was MySpace, and I don't think they were called DMs at the time. They're just called just a message. And it's like, that was my first time experiencing that. Like, I was not a cool kid in high school. I did not have a lot of friends. I just had my band, and no one thought it was cool until it was cool.
Except for your science teacher. He thought it was cool.
Exactly. Well, even then they were like, until like the deal came, like, I don't know. People were just like, oh, what are you guys doing? And then it was funny because if you weren't in our hometown, Troy, we were cool. Because we would just show up and play the show, and you're like, oh, you're the guys from Miss May I. But at hometown, they knew us when Miss May I was playing like Taking Back Sunday covers. So like, what the fuck's your band doing? And so yeah, we were not cool. So like when that was a new thing too, is like just talking to girls, talking to just people like older, like, and there's like older people like introduced us because we're playing bars, and like, and we're like the cool guys when there's like these girls that are over 21. It was an exposure to all this stuff that we did not know. We'd play some shows to where like we were only allowed in for our set and we'd have to leave because we weren't of age. And we were really cool at the time. Like, we didn't know why, but we're like, this is fucking sick. Like, people think we're cool. Like, you almost didn't want to go home. You're like, I don't want to go home. Like, I'm cool right now. Like, if I go home, I'm just Levi again in like senior year of high school.
You're like pulling shows up on, the YouTube or whatever. I'm like, no, seriously, look what we did. Like, we're cool.
Yeah, and they're like, get your homework done. And it was like, fuck. Like, I'm telling you, like, people freak out. So yeah, it was just foreign. That's really what Heart Express is about, is just like sort of exposed, like just seeing that for the first time. And yeah, just dealing with that. So
I like the line, compare everything in the world to your pile of nothing. I was like, yeah, that's a good one.
Thanks, dude. I'm telling you, it's just trying to, how tough could it be? Yeah. So, and at this time, we call them blah blahs now. After doing an album with Machine, which I get, that's a really common thing. So even when we did an album with Terry Date, who did Pantera, he called it blah blahs. So like at the time though, we didn't know what blah blahs were, because we didn't know. And how we used to write songs was we put these dashes on paper. So the song, like, we always have been a band where instruments are first and then vocals come last, because like I don't feel the song until I hear the thing. I can't just be like, oh, this is what I'm feeling. I like hear it and I'm like, it pulls some heartstrings, like, oh, okay, it's coming. And we would just, I would like listen to it and I'd put dashes where I'd want the syllables, and then we'd go back and fill it in. And yeah, when it would get to breakdowns like that, we're like, we'd fill it in, you're like, oh, that's me, like, that's sick. So yeah, that's like where stuff like that comes from.
Yeah, I wrote down 2 lines. Is that one in To Live is not just to breathe.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Are you a guy that do you have?
Yeah, sorry.
Do you have notebook? Do you have notes app? Anything in your phone? Just like sayings like that you
oh yeah, one-liners. Yeah, for sure. And they're one-liners that mean something.
Yeah.
And I have to place the song around it usually. So, and sometimes there's some good ones that never make the thing, because I just never, like, I really am someone that the hearts, like, I am playing with the guitar player. Like, our band is a very guitar first band. So like, if you don't feel it, which we get that a lot of reviews from our band of people like we're like an emotional band, but it's because I'm playing off the emotion of the guitar players. We're not trying to, we have songs where we've tried to make it fit and do what everyone else does, and like, it hits just a block wall. You're like, what the hell are we trying to do? Like, it's just so empty. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, I'm definitely someone who has that, and I'm also a big, not saying all the riffs, but a lot of riffs will come from like voice memos. So like, I'll hear like I'll da-da-da, and like they'll be like, oh, hold on a second, and I'll 30 minutes later, like, is this what you meant? I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I heard. So we'll write riffs that way.
Have you seen it? It's a little animation or whatever going around now, and it's like how metalcore guys write the breakdown, and it is
the ping pong
ball. It's like dun 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 dun.
It's a good breakdown too.
Yeah, I'm like, at first you hear it, and you're like, that's stupid, and you're like,
yeah, it's good.
You're just like, oh man, that's so good. Brooke from Impending Doom on this one.
Yeah, so Brooke, he's a homie. They just started playing again, but it was sort of like an out of retirement shot in the dark to get Brooke, because he's, they play like one-off shows, but they're just now becoming active again, which is awesome. That was a big one that I was like, please say yes, please say yes. Because like, anytime we go through Texas, Brooke comes out. Like, he's like a dad to us. He was the first person. I was introduced to Melissa Cross from Chris from Devil Wears Prada, because he was like building us. He's like, you need to figure your stuff out. But then in the field, Brooke was the guy like, hey, you're not doing it. Literally, really follow the plan, because like, you have to play every day. So he was like a big brother. And yeah, Brooke is such a sweet, awesome dude. He will do guest vocals and sing with us when he always wants to sing Masters of a Dying Breed. That's like his favorite song. He always wants to do that when he comes through. Yeah, he was the co-headliner with KNOTFEST on our first tour. So I really wanted those 2 guys for sure to be on the album. And yeah, we loved Impending Doom. The first tour was, I don't know if anybody knows this song, but it's go look up More Than Conquerors, the breakdown for that song. Holy shit, dude. That came out during that tour, and that, to this day, it's still top 5 breakdowns like I've ever heard in my life. And yeah, he's a very unique vocalist, so it was awesome to have him in there. Just another like family celebration thing.
Next up on the record is Tides.
Yeah, so Tides is a very like aquatic sort of themed song, and I would say the reason for that is we were in love with the freaking Boys, Parkway Drive at the time, and that's the first time we heard like ocean metal music, and like just like talking about like Riptides and Undertow and all that, and you're just like, so just being inspired by that, that's sort of where all the visuals came from for that song. And yeah, it's just another just being sort of stuck in. It's our version of like an undertow like song of just like being stuck in this sort of rut. And at the time, Now They're the Boys is a Parkway inspired song. I should have asked freaking Winston to do this song next time. Love those guys. They inspired the band a lot. Especially what they were doing was just groundbreaking when we were coming out. And like they were. It was the first time hearing. We're from Ohio. We don't have any oceans or tides to really sympathize with. So like hearing their songs, we're like, they surf. Wow, the ocean. Like, and that we've never seen the ocean. I'm like, well, this is crazy. I just saw in like music videos. So, that's sort of where all this came from.
Yeah, I have a lot of. I wrote a lot of ship metaphors.
Yep.
Songs kind of about like life and death. A little bit of that, and it was just funny. You guys were going into a lot of the ship stuff. Talking about the ocean, referring to it as she, Yeah. And I was just like, it's kind of out of left field if you're like diving in like I did, where it's, every song's kind of got a message here and there, but this one is just like, why are there so many ocean metaphors to this?
We just loved Parkway so much. Yeah.
That's just right. Songs about the ocean.
Yeah.
Jake from August Burns Red on this one.
Yes. So
not Winston from Parkway.
Yes, not Winston. Next time, Winston. Next time.
Like a remix.
There we go. Jake is so Jake's cool because now we're getting to the point in the album where these are people like that inspired us. So we like looked up to ABR, loved ABR. They were just like beyond our skill set of musicians, just an insane shredder band. And then me and Jake, I'd probably say top 5 closest people I'm with from tour would be like Jake, and it's just a really great dude. Like a family friend, and the reason he was on the list, a no-brainer of when we reached out, and then when I was going through, there's a bouncy part that's a very ABR inspired part, and you get ask any of the guys like when we were writing it, a lot of this album is just like us, not like ripping off, but just imitating, like it just comes subliminally. You're imitating like your heroes.
Especially when you're that age.
Yeah. And like I said, we don't know what we're doing. We never saw them live or anything. We're just like, dude, this is like a bouncy, riffy part. And that was us trying out in Tides. And this whole album in general is sort of us trying stuff out. Not purposely, but we're just like I said, on the playbook of us like, this has been done. We can't do it again. Here's the next song. This has been done. It was like, we got to the point of like, a bouncy part, and we're like, oh, let's try it here. And it's sort of just like a buffet of like what we could throw at the wall. And Jake wanted to do it. He was actually, I think when I sent all the texts out in one day, and I think Jake was the first person to text back. And he was the one I was most scared about because they're just so busy and just massive. And I'm like, he's not gonna have time. Like he's not, and I wanted him because like it'd just be a big deal for our band to have Jake on there. And one thing from Miss May and I, we've had some guest vocals, but we really aren't a guest vocal band. Like none of our albums really have that. So this was like, I was cashing out, like getting all my friends to come in. And he crushed it. And he's just got such a unique voice. I just love that he's a part of it.
I think we haven't really talked about on this whole album is, Justin and BJ's guitar work is way ahead of their time, or, of their age. How did you meet those guys? Were they always shredders? Like, did you obviously go into high school with them and things like that? Were they were the kind of the guitar guys at the school? Like, what was their story?
So, the origin story of the band was like, I was in a band with these older guys, these two dudes, Zach and another guy, I can't think of his name, but we were just playing like Hawthorne Heights covers, because Hawthorne Heights was from Ohio. They just came out. They were freaking Hawthorne Heights, insane. I'll never forget, they were like played in Taco Bell, and I'm like, they made it, dude. Their songs in Taco Bell, this is crazy. And then there was another like cover band. We never played shows. It was just like basement bands. And the reason these bands existed, so we're from like a Pleasantville town. Okay. Like it's not real life. Even to this day, especially after touring, I'm like, we were so lucky to be from this town. But Troy, everyone either skated or played football. We were all the skater band kids. And then when the lights went out, you can't skate because we're in a small town with not a lot of street lights. So we'd all go play in basements and we'd be in little bands. And then Justin was in a band with our friend Kevin Danielson. What's up? And we sort of, I sort of quit playing with them, and because I skated with Justin more, I played with their band, and I was a bass player initially, and was like, oh, I'll try some vocals, and I'm getting to it. And then there was like a Finch song that was the first time we screamed, opened us up to She Burns. Like, yeah, so that was the first time I'm like, I'll try it, and we're like, that was sick. Opened up to Under Oath and all this, and then we're like, oh, we started building this band, and like I said, no intent to play. It was just like, what are we going to do after 8 o'clock? Because like my bedtime's 10 and I have 2 hours to like do something. And we're jamming, and then BJ, so BJ was our riffer. Like Justin is blues trained. His dad's like a blues player. Like if you ask Justin to play blues, he would just melt you. He's like, that's what he plays. And he's like rhythm in our band, and he's solid. BJ was a grade up above us. He smoked cigarettes. He had his license. He had like the budget to have a cab. Like we were borrowing parents' stuff, and BJ actually had his own stuff, and he wasn't in a band. Right. We just knew of him as being a shredder, and he was like the ladies' man. Like he was like just the cool guy. And then I don't even know how, I think we just asked him, and he like came to a practice, and I remember freaking out that he was there. He had cowboy boots on, like, yeah, smoking a cig. I was just like, and we're in school, I'm like, you're so sick, this is so sick. Like, it was just so cool. And he came and played with us, and yeah, we just and he was into He Is Legend at the time. That was like his jam. And yeah, so they were just riffers, and then him and Justin hit it off, and then we met Josh. So a lot of Apologies for the Week, Josh played guitar too. Josh only played bass because we already had 2 guitar players. So he was a great singer, but he riffed for other bands. So a lot of the riffs Josh wrote as well. And there's this like sound, I would say like a coined sound of like Dayton, Ohio metal, or like Ohio metal of like At the Throne of Judgment, Wool of Tyrants, From the Shallows. Like there's just, I don't know what, Brother Von Doom. There's this like just type of riffing. And Josh really brought that to our band, because Josh was not from our school. He was from Dayton. And we brought him in when so once we started playing local shows, we started clipping our guys and getting guys from other bands. Because we were getting higher up on bills and just doing better. And so bands that played under us, it sucked because obviously we're all friends, but we'd be like, we need that guy. Right. And we would just like take him, and then we have to cut a friend that was like a best friend. And we're all still friends now. But yeah, so we sort of made a super band of local bands. And yeah, that's how we met. That's how we got Josh, and then we got Ryan later. Well, yeah, we got Ryan initially. He left, and then we got Josh because he would play with us with other bands. But because of the Dayton sound and Josh coming in the band, I think that really taught Justin and BJ sort of the Dayton sound and just growing up with those sounds. And then BJ really he was more a lead shredder. He just wanted to play solos. Justin just wanted to freaking do blues. So it sort of worked perfectly because he could hold down the rhythm, and BJ could just show off. And yeah, that's, and then Joey was cool because since he was from the same era, he's cut from the same cloth. Yeah. So we were all growing up to the same albums, like Wolf Tyrants, Brother Von Doom, like all these bands were like, it's that, I'm not a guitar player, so I can't say the actual stuff, but like the scales and stuff, it's just this, and like the picking, it's just this Dayton sound. I don't know what it is, yeah.
And then Jared, obviously, like it's funny again, thinking about how old you guys are at the time, and it's, a sick double bass and just it's like so fast and just so technical. And for you guys to all be kids, it's crazy to hear this album.
Thank you, man. Thank you. So Jared was lead snare. That's how we stole him. So he was a band guy, and we heard he had a drum kit. So we're like, he has a drum kit, and we're like, he's lead snare. So he was going to go to college to be a Blue Coat, which is a famous like snare group. Okay. And he chose to do the band stuff, but he was like the most insane drummer. Not like specifically a metal drummer. We all we weren't metal guys. We just sort of loved the music at the same time, and we like figured out how to play it at the same time. So yeah, like when we found Dahlia and all that, we're just like, did you hear Black Dahlia Murder? And you're like, what is this? This is crazy. And like, did you hear also, or As Blood Runs Black? We're just like, and those were like our Bibles. We'd be like, we just dissect it. We're like, this is crazy. Like, what are they doing? So
yeah, definitely a wild time. All right. Blessing with the Curse.
Okay, so Blessing with the Curse. This is sort of okay, this is a Bring Me the Horizon 100% sort of rip. And it's just because that was their first album was out, and we were looking up to them. And this was when they were like deathcore. And yeah, it was the lyrically it definitely sort of follows of like is highly inspired by them. But it also goes in tie with like this is towards the end of the album. We're going through the struggles of all the band stuff, and like I'm like blaming the band for my breakup, and the band hasn't even started yet. Like there's just so much stuff. So that's like, it's sort of like almost a conceited song, because I'm like, man, this stupid fucking band, I can't, like, it's ruining everything, and like we haven't even started. Yeah, so that's like what the song's really about.
I know it's more relationship, more uncertainty with life.
Yes, so
hey, staying through.
Yeah, and it's just because it was like, I know it was everyone ended up playing ball, but there was a lot of pushback because it was so foreign, and obviously bands 99% of the time don't work out.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, you want to throw away all your schooling to like for MySpace? Because all it was a MySpace message. There wasn't like a big check or anything. It was just like, they're gonna put our album out. Like, this might be cool. Like, please trust us.
Right. It's like the that thing you do. We're signing it. He's got a nice RV.
Dude, seriously, yeah. And like I said, Rise, like all they had was Prada and Drop Dead Gorgeous, which obviously were huge at the time. Mm-hmm. But like to parents, they're still living in a van. Like these bands, they're still like living on $5 a day. But to us, they're like gods. We're like, we could do that. Like FYE could sell our album. Like this will be crazy.
Oh yeah. I mean, at that same age, that getting $5 a day, I'm like, I'm rich.
Oh my gosh, yeah. If I had like $2 left over, like Impending taught us how to play CeeLo, so we lost or gained money depending on the day. So
that was nothing better than showing up to the venue, and if you had a food buyout, and you might get $10 from the venue. Dude. So you add that to your $5, you got $15, but then you're like hoping for the $10 food buyout, and then you get there and there's catering, and you're like, this food is delicious. Man, I wish I had $10.
Yeah. Like, what am I going to eat tonight? I have no money to take home. Yeah.
Here's another pizza. We're going to put after the van. Trevor from Our Last Night on this one.
Yeah. So I'm so happy. So Trevor, we were super fans. Trevor is actually younger than us. He was like a child prodigy. I think he was like 14 or 15 when their first album came out. And we did our first few tours with him, and we got really close with those guys, and it was really cool to have them on this album because reaching out to them was cool because they're sort of they're in their own world right now, and it's just, that's so cool. Mm-hmm. So that was another reason why I wanted to reach out. One, because we grew up playing with the guys, and we love those guys. We think they're like superstars, but the other thing is, because they're in a different world, we thought it'd be cool to sort of bring that back together. Because like they haven't really done this type of music in a while. Mm-hmm. So it was sort of a shot in the dark. I remember sending that text. He was the last person I asked because I was sort of getting down to like, I had a big list and then I had to narrow it down. And I was like, I would love to have Trevor, but I'm like, they're like huge on YouTube doing these huge cover things now. They just did a Disney song, like they're doing crazy stuff, but they used to play this kind of music, and I'd love to bring him back.
Right.
And it was like 5 minutes later, he's like, of course, I'll have him to you next week. So it was cool to have Trevor back, and this has one of the prettiest singing choruses, I would say, on the album, so it was nice to have him on it because I knew his voice is just amazing. So
yeah, and the one nice thing about technology now is like they can send you a stem of the vocal or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You don't have to fly everybody in and book studio time and all the nonsense. I'm sure of the 10 of these tracks, 8 of them were probably done at home.
For sure. Yeah, there was only a couple guys that were like, can I get a studio budget? And I'm like, dude, of course. Right. But like most of them were like, I'll have you next week. And they're just doing it in their bedrooms.
Yeah, which is wild. Next up on the album is Porcelain Wings.
Yes, Porcelain.
Not Pocleon.
Yes, it is misspelled on DSPs. We'll try to fix it. So Porcelain Wings, I think I had it wrong earlier. So this was another demo song that sort of made it towards the end. This was a song that had a different name. No Need to Whip a Dead Horse. That was the original name. So that was the original name when it was on our demos. So this one sort of made from our demo to the album. And yeah, this one is just really about it's just the sort of the delicacy of just how fragile things could be. That's like where the obviously the name Porcelain comes from, but just so I think it's a lot of it goes like into my emotions I'm dealing with because I'm a teenager, obviously, and just everything felt so fragile and out of control. And that's sort of where the visuals came for this song. So
this one I've got written down. We live in every note we sing. I like that.
Yes,
that's very on the nose.
Thank you. Yeah. We like I said, I was just trying to. I was also like discovering myself. I feel like throughout this album because, like I said, I didn't really go to therapy as a kid. Not that I had a lot to talk about. I guess I did, and it was coming out through this album. And it's like, so through it, I did. And us being just an inspirational band, we always wanted to, because we felt like obviously we were lucky with our careers, but we also wanted to inspire people to like go do it because we were lucky. We're like, it's sort of what you and I were talking about earlier before this interview. It's just like when you don't really care, like when you not care, but when you don't try so hard and like want it so bad and like just let it come and like naturally happen. That's how we felt, and that's always been our message as a band. Like I always say, like when Miss May is over, or if it's ever over, I just wanted to inspire some people to do things. And it's so cool to hear these bands later, like Currents and Silent Planet, be like, oh, like this inspired me, so it's that. And I'm like, that's all I wanted. Like I just wanted someone to be like, hey, you could do this stuff. Like, just I know it's like it's not like gonna happen overnight, but like at least try and believe in yourself. You know what I mean? Because so many people just don't believe in themselves, and that's what the whole like our band's really core message is, like that inspiration for that. So
nice. Telly from The Word Alive.
Oh man, Telly, he is like a bro. So funny story about Telly. He's from Ohio as well. There was this band. You remember Pure Volume? Like it was a music sharing song. Okay, so Pure Volume was sort of hand in hand with MySpace. It was like long form music that you could download and stuff. So there was a music player on MySpace, but there was a better music player on Pure Volume. You could have like a music profile.
Okay.
And there was this band called March and Collapse, and it was around the time Chiodos was coming out. This is pre Miss May I. We were like looking up to these guys and wanted to be these guys. And there was this band March and Collapse, and they were from Dayton, and they were just huge. And there was this one picture of this like sweaty, long-haired dude, just like in the microphones all taped up, and he was swinging. Yeah, just so cool. That was Telly from Dayton, and we're looking up to him. And his first band was March and Collapse. And fast forward all these years later, we're touring with Word Alive. We shared a bus with these guys. Like our first bus share was with Word Alive on the Killswitch tour. And we've just had so many life accomplishments in parallel and together. And even to this day, like I just went to Incarceration last month, and it's like I was side stage in the middle of the song. He puts his mic down, comes over, gives me like a big sweaty hug, misses the whole vocal part, goes back and sings it. And I'm just like, we're just boys, and like did Warped Tours together. So yeah, we've grown up from like OG days to this, and we're both have had really awesome careers. And we couldn't have I wouldn't have missed Telly on this whole thing. So
last track on the album, Forgive and Forget.
Yes, so Forgive and Forget, obviously the recurring subject we keep talking about. It's this is probably the most Please Take Me Back song of the breakup during this album. But it's also like, the whole subject of this is just like to sort of move past these mistakes you've made and realize you made these mistakes, and that's what I was really trying to get across, and hoping now my wife would just hear it. So it did work, and we did not, I say this for all our albums, I never, if I were to bet in Vegas that the singles would be the singles, I would always be wrong. Right. I never would have thought this would have been the single. But yeah, this song took off, and this is really what did set it up for Miss May I. So it changed our lives.
Yeah, this one, I mean, obviously, the Take Me Back to How It Used to Be, like kind of the whole, which is just kind of funny now listening to it, obviously older. You're like, man, take me back to, 2009.
Yeah.
When this album's hitting, or like take me back to those days. One thing I do have written down that you said you didn't see it as a single. With the singing on this, it's almost like Blink 182-ish. It's got like a little, it's almost like more radio friendly than anything else on the entire album, and it kind of does have that radio single sound to it.
Yeah, we knew it was sort of intentional. And like I said, the track listing is sort of, this was the last song we were recording before we left, and I think we realized that was something that was missing on the album, was just like that big chorus. And that wasn't something we were trying to do throughout the album. It was like, let's try a big chorus and see what happens. So this was like, at the time, Joey had the big Devil Wears Prada chorus. So I'm like, we need that big. And we were also really inspired by Killswitch and As I Lay Dying at this time as well. So we're like, we need that just like big sing-along. And even though this is on like the lighter side, it was like, I think it's on the lighter side too because of just our register and our voices at the time, just like a higher notes. And Joey writes sort of in those keys. But yeah, this was our Swing for the Fences, and it's cool because this isn't like a chorus; it's just a singing part. Like, so just to go back to the whole structure of Apologies. But yeah, we knew when we wrote it that it was a good, like a big singing part, and it had like that big outro. It was very inspired by Devil Wears Prada. So.
Yeah, there's a moment between like two times you say "beautiful state," like it's beautiful state, and then there's like an awesome crazy chuggy part, and then there's like it kind of comes back around again. And yeah, we were talking earlier. It's like even the singing in this song, it's not necessarily a chorus. It's just a part. It kind of adds to it. Video for this song, obviously, it looks like a little bit of a video budget on this one.
Yes,
I guess a performance video and things like that. Oh, this was the kids watching TV and everybody comes over and trashes the house. What do you remember about the making of the video?
Yeah, so we didn't have like really a treatment. We had like an email of a treatment, but we were making up the story as we went. So sort of how this video played out was we're on our tour. This was done on a soundstage. So that house is actually low budget, high budget experience, low budget. So we're like had makeup and all this, and we're on a soundstage. That house actually, our director got it because he, the movie Erin Brockovich, that's her house, and it was a set. So that house was on wheels. Okay. And it could move in the soundstage, and there was a bunch of houses. It was like a Hollywood thing.
Yeah.
And they were destroying it, then trashing it. It was like, it's time to move on. And that's how we got it. They're like, oh, let's trash this house during the video. No storyline. We're just like, this is getting trashed while we're playing. And Spencer, who was our director at the time, he was like, this guy's gonna come in. The kid was watching the TV. There was nothing on the TV. So really, we like made it up post the video being done. Like even the intro to it, like I remember him sending it to us. I'm like, oh, let's try this, let's try that. So like the whole Atomic thing was sort of an afterthought. Mm-hmm. It was just like these monsters come in, this guy's watching this little kid's watching it, and it's like his dream is this is getting destroyed. We'll figure it out later.
Right.
And so, yeah, we just trashed his house. It was so hot. The synchronized, pre-Crabcore synchronized headbangs. We thought we were Whitechapel. Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. And it's funny. There's like so many funny things of like, we were in this huge soundstage and we're like, oh, fuck, how are we going to get like playback? So behind the speakers is like fake speakers playing like quietly to Jared. So we could only hear drums. And Jared's just trying to play with it. And we're just like, okay, like we didn't know what we were doing. And yes, it's funny because some of the people on that set, like the makeup artists and stuff, later became like big managers. And they're like big in the music scene. But at the time, they were like a makeup artist, PA on that music video shoot. And I'm like, I see them at like festivals now and they're like huge music managers. I'm like, didn't you do our makeup on it? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, that's how I got into music. And so there's all these like people that came out of that set. Yeah, it was just an afterthought, just us winging it.
So. And the little kid is Danny Wimmer.
Yeah.
Now, do we know who the little kid is? Have you?
No, I should look it up. Yeah, he was an actor. It was like he was like a legit, like everything there. The cool thing was it was all legit, L.A. like Hollywood people. Right. So I think we were at like Pomona. It was like a soundstage way in. It was like not. It was almost desert, like almost out of the city. So we weren't like proper Hollywood, but we were in it. It was sick.
Man, yeah. You definitely have to find out what happened to that kid. Kirby and Tuck from Fit for a King on this one.
Yeah, so these were the guys. These are our bros. Like we're like parallel metalcore, like just inspired and love the same things. Like we love the Fit for a King guys. We We love each other's bands. We've toured all over the world together, done European tours, US tours together. And yeah, they have sort of the same duo thing we got going on. Same with As I Dying, Kill Switch, everybody. And they were a no-brainer. They were a staple that we needed going into this of friends. And to put them in a category of this is they're just like someone we've really befriended and became homies with, because we actually both used to open tours together, then headline tours together, then like headline House of Blues. Is like we grew up together playing like, man, can you imagine if we had this? And then when it happened, you're like, dude, we did it. Dude, that was sick. And you're like, yeah, it was awesome. So yeah, we love those guys.
Nice. Well, as we wrap up, where were you June 23rd, 2009? The album came out.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I could. I didn't know it was June 23rd. I knew if it was Florida, we might have still been in Florida, because I remember on that first tour, there was like 5 Florida shows, which is absurd to think about now. So yeah, I couldn't tell you exactly where.
I didn't know if you went to Tower Records that day.
We did go to a Hot Topic. I do remember, because Hot Topic sold music at the time. Yes, they were selling music, because it was something you did not believe, and it had this. Rise was infamous for those stickers, like for fans of, and that like got you into the bands. And I remember just begging to be like, can you please put these bands like, and to us, we're like, Rise put like, I think what ended up being on there was like Devil Wears Prada and like, they put their bands, like, which makes sense.
Right.
But to us, I remember submitting like, Keep Paul Paris, as well as Black, these bands that we loved. We're like, nah, it's not going to work. But I'm like, do that. I think it might have been Under Oath and Prada, which has helped us tremendously. But yeah, I remember going to Hot Topic and seeing it and being like, wow, this is really here. So, yeah.
First tour out of the gate, do you remember what you guys did, like, first tour to promote the album?
Yeah, there was the Impending Doom and KNOTFEST tour. And we, at the time, that was like when we'd finish playing, we'd all have a sleeve of CDs, and we're just like hustling them. And we would sell them at cost. We would make zero money on them because we just wanted people to hear our band.
Right.
It wasn't like go download on iTunes, because like MP3s were obviously a thing, but they weren't like a thing yet. Like iPods were there, but like CDs are still like if you're driving around, you're not really doing an aux cable yet.
Right.
You needed the CD. So we were just hustling CDs for $5. That's what it was. It was always $5 CDs. Like, please just buy. And we would just go through sleeves. It'd almost be a thing, because the thing too, as a band, we'd keep the tips of each person. So like you'd sell it and so we'd be like, keep the change. So like,
nice.
We'd all come back with tips. They're like, how much you make tonight? Oh, I made this. Oh, how much you make? And then on top of your $5, you're like, I made $40. Like, I'm fucking killing it. Yeah.
I'm going to go to Walmart.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Fresh pair of socks.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. Overall, just kind of, like I said, you did a re-recorded the album, so you've kind of been in this album for a while, but looking back on this album, what does Apologies for the Week mean to you, mean to the band?
We always knew it was special, especially even all of our post albums to this album. Each album has its own thing it's done for our career, but we knew Apologies was special, and sort of, I don't know why, I don't know what happened, but was a big album for that time, and I'm very thankful for it. Like I said, that stuff, there's always a thing, like, you don't make success, it's like success finds you, so it's just right place, right time. One thing I specifically remember about this album, I remember going back to school when it was finished and having, like, the copy, and I remember sitting in, I had an old Chevy Celebrity, exhaust was missing, like, you get lightheaded if you're sitting too long, like very loud, rusty car. And I remember just sitting there and having friends just like a line in my car and out of my car, like, you want to hear it? And I just remember everyone's reactions being like, dude. And like, I'll never forget that, because like even now to this day, people are like, oh, this is cool. But there was nothing that was like the Apologies. And so we always knew there was something special. And that's why it's so cool to revisit it. And I will say, the 2 Miss May I tattoos that we only see really is the lion logo or an Apologies for the Week, like sleeve or something about it. Right. There'll be a few monument stuff here and there, depending on when they found our band, but it's never like the later ones as much. It's always Apologies or, yeah, the symbol. And I think it goes back to the thing of like, people always say like when you discover a band, that's your favorite album, and I think that's like when everyone sort of discovered us. So that album's always had a special place, and it's cool to go back and retrack it. And not to say it's timeless, but like when we were recording it, all of us were skeptics. I was like, I don't know if we're doing the right decision. Like, we don't want to ruin it. Like, do it. And everyone's like, what did you do to it? And we were all skeptics until we went to track our parts. And I do vocals, obviously, last. And everyone was leaving. And because of our schedules and being dads and stuff, unfortunately, this album we didn't get to re-record the same time. So we were all going in chunks. And I remember going and doing vocals, and like the first line, I like looked, I was like, this is going to be, like, I remember being like, this is such a good idea. Because, yeah, it was like, we just went through the punch list. So I was like, Dance to the Cura's first line, I was like, oh my God, like, we made the right decision. So, yeah, it sort of has like a timeless vibe, especially now that what metalcore is and what it was for the time. So I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy it still holds up. And, yeah, I love this album.
Yeah, man, this was a lot of fun to dive into. Apologies for the week. The re-record will be out August 23rd. And we're going on tour from August 2nd to November 3rd with In Heart's Wake, Traders, and Blooms. It's going to be an awesome month out on the road, man.
Yes, cannot wait to play it back and forth, or front to back. And it's very fast, so we will see how my stamina. It's going to kick my ass. I've been working out for it. And yeah, we have a really cool production. And yeah, I just can't wait to play this album. Like, there's songs we've never played live before from this album, so it's going to be fun.
It's going to be awesome, man. Well, Levi, man, thanks for taking some time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
All right, appreciate you.
Hell yeah.